Britain boys. Charlie Jack the sailor with his breezy style, Mr. Tommy Atkins of the rank and file.
The crew were both elated and focused. After a successful action and a whole lot of cocksure complacency, wanting something more than just trawlers and the like, they got it when they were told that they were not yet going home. Both ahead full.
Yes, sir. Ahead full. Yes, sir.
Jolly good luck to you. You're all right in love or war. You'll get there again just the same as you've done before.
HMS Umbra is ordered to infiltrate enemy waters off the northeastern coast of Sicily. A reported minefield in the main passage shuts us off from a lovely patch of wide and deep ocean. So instead, we're forced to traverse through the hotly patrolled Messina Strait, a long, thin sliver of water betwixt two broad enemy coastlines. And as if land wasn't close enough athwart us, beneath us would be shallow waters of an unknown depth, meaning that a simple submerged traversal might well be impossible, especially at low tide. Detection would surely spell our doom, as Axis ships and planes would be close by, all too eager to send our little boat to the bottom. This mission was a whole different ballgame, but I was confident that this boat would come out on top. After all, it's got a broken hydrophone, a piddly 3-inch deck gun, and the finest crew that I could ask for. 30 stalwart British bulldogs, fighters all, and it's my job to make sure that all of them make it home.
You'll get there again just the same as you've done before. Boys in khaki, boys in blue, it's no either boat or brag. When we get to move together, there's going to be dirty weather for anyone who tramples on the flag.
Okay, so we've got some very, very good news indeed. It's just coming up to about 2:30. We're currently submerged. We're on the southern tip of Italy actually at the moment. We're just about to complete basically a straight leg of 270 before we turn into the Messina Strait. And with any luck, we should be through the strait at night time so that we have the veil of darkness to try and conceal our passage as best we can. I want every advantage stacked in our favour. But the good news is that if you follow me over to the hydrophone, it's working. Oh, I don't know what's happened. I don't know if one of the guys managed to fix it. I haven't had a report from them, but it seems to be working now, and I'm jolly well chuffed with that. Now, the merchant that we are going to pass, well, we're going to continue to observe it, but if we pass it, we'll have a look at it. If it's worth sinking, then we will obviously sink it, but my primary focus is on getting to our patrol area, preferably undetected, because if we sink that there, that's assuming this isn't hotly patrolled already. It's going to be hotly patrolled, but every warship from the southeastern side is going to start making its way towards that location, and we obviously have given away our presence. But then also warships from our patrol area may come through the Messina Strait, and if we can't dive to escape them, that's going to, well, it's going to thwart our plans. So what we'll do is we'll continue our traversal, and I will catch up with you once we are in or through the Messina Strait. Luck is a fickle thing. If anyone else had encountered this weather, they would think themselves cursed. Many of the sailors aboard HMS Umbra certainly thought so, with a rough storm putting even some of our most seasoned CPOs to the test as they make regular trips to the bucket in the diesel room we normally use as the head when submerged. For our purposes, however, this storm is perfect and ensures that nobody can see or hear us in the dark. We just have to stick out this leg on the surface for as long as we can. With our current speed and course leaving about an hour before we enter the treacherous shallows, I dived the boat to perform one last hydrophone check to ensure the way ahead, as well as every other direction, was clear of enemy contact. On our starboard quarter, we detected one close contact. A merchant. Fat. Slow. Vulnerable. I returned to the charts to evaluate the situation. The merchant was the only contact. The mouth of the strait was clear, and we were already 2/3 of the way through the strait, with only the upcoming shallows to contend with. If this weather held out, the emergency dive in the event of contact may not be needed. Our previous plan was to make the traversal completely silent, but now a new strategy was forming in my mind. If this lone merchant were to have a torpedo-related accident, we would add tonnage to our total, which we need, but more importantly, one of two things would happen. Either the merchant would go down without a word and we get off scot-free, or the explosion, some resulting fire or radio transmission would alert of the attack and bring enemy planes and warships into the strait. It was night, and it would only take a couple of hours to cross the shallows at most, compared to the several more hours it would take for the enemy to mobilise in response. By the time they had begun to move towards the strait, we would already be submerged at the northern entrance, watching and waiting to take our pick of the targets, only increasing our tonnage further. One way or the other, this little boat was about to score big. Visual on merchant. Set action stations. Identify that ship. We have a medium old composite freighter. Initial ranging is that. And let's 315 it. Mark. Down. Okay, so let's sift through the book while we're waiting. Got to find a medium old composite freighter. Medium tanker, no. Last masking, no. Medium old tanker, no. Very nice, but not what I'm looking for. Liberty cargo, merchant, yeah, medium composite freighter, passenger freighter, modern freighter, medium old composite freighter. Here we go. So we have a draft of 7.3. So let's go through and change this all to, I don't know, about 6.5. Yeah, 6.5 is a good depth. Set that all to 6.5. Okay, so we are nice and well rounded. Might well pull in about 4,000 tons from this one. Certainly hope so. That'll be loads of tons, which is exactly what we need to help progress our career. But to explain what's happening here, it's a very simple technique. You mark a primary position, you time 3 minutes and 15 seconds between the positions, obviously then going ahead to mark the second. The distance between them you can use to figure out the target's speed as well as the target's course, which are two essential pieces of information that we're going to require to ensure that our Mark 8 torpedoes are going to hit their target. There they are. So we've got 4 and then 4 more in reserve. Now, I need to sink this merchant quickly, and I also need to, bring in the tonnage. So I'm going to fire a full spread of 4 torpedoes. No, I'm going to do 3. I think I'm going to take a risk and we're going to get away with 3. How are we doing on time? 2 minutes in, almost time. It's not a perfect method, but it's very good for getting basically within a knot either side of the target's actual speed. The longer you can do it, the better, but I don't have that time. Okay, up. There you are, lock. Four, 3, 2, 1, mark. Okay, so our survey says 800 meters, that's 0.8 kilometers, times by 10, that's 8 knots. So that tells us that, and we can see here not quite 015, navigating on 014, course of 014. So now using that, we can take our protractor, line the dot up with about 014. Oh, that'll do. Actually draw it out to the boat, that would help. 50 degrees. So let's take our next ranging, send that. Angle on bow just above 50, send that. Position keeper on. What do they make of the speed? 7 knots and 9 degrees. Well, I know that's wrong. I'm going to err on a bit closer to 9 degrees. So I got 8. I know it's probably going to accelerate when it sees the torpedoes. And also you are off by a whole 5 degrees, so I think allowing a knot... I think the crew's just wrong there. That's an entirely wrong guess on their part. Okay, just before we finalise, let's take one last ranging to be sure. 14900. A slightly less haphazard AOB puts us at 57. Set. Open tubes 1, 2, 3. Or 1, 3, 2 rather. And
Firing tube 1.
Fire tube 1. Slightly 1 degree up. Fire tube 3. And slightly 1 forward. Fire tube 2. Down scope, full ahead.
Yes, sir.
Together, steer 010. Torpedoes are named after the torpedo fish, which is a kind of electric eel. The name was adapted to describe the sudden shock of the explosion on the hull of the target ship. Their first iteration saw them appear as primitive explosive charges closer to limpet mines, with examples like the CSS Hunley having their torpedo fitted to the end of a spar. Soon after, with the invention of the self-propelled torpedo by Robert Whitehead in 1866, sea mines would become more recognised as something distinctly different from their more mobile cousins. During World War I, a form of standardisation for torpedoes was introduced, meaning that while there can be variations, most torpedoes are now of a standard 21-inch or 533mm diameter that is still in use today, with rare exception. This uniformity means that multiple pieces of ordnance can fit in the tubes of submarines across the entirety of a navy, or even multiple navies should munitions need to be sold, even as newer designs of both torpedoes and their launchers and platforms come into service. The British 21-inch torpedo design originated in 1910 and entered service in 1914, just before the start of the First World War, and went through a series of rapid revisions. In 1928, designers finally arrived on the Mark 8 torpedo, which is the torpedo currently carried by HMS Umbra. The Mark 8 is a burner cycle torpedo, which means that it uses a diesel engine cycle for propulsion, the same way that Umbra does for her surface propulsion, though slightly modified of course, as diesel engines cannot operate underwater due to their need of air for combustion. Air is instead introduced to the engine from a compressed air flask, and diesel fuel is used to achieve combustion in the normal manner. The process in the Mark 8 and other burner cycle torpedoes was enhanced by the fact that a small amount of paraffin was used to heat the incoming air before it entered the diesel cylinder. This meant that the preheated air could ignite more diesel fuel quicker than the standard cool air could, and so the cycle yielded a greater output.
This is what you see just before it hits you. Now at the top.
The Mark 8 we're using here is the early pre-war version. It has a single propeller and a single speed setting of 40 knots. It carries an explosive charge of 750 pounds, or 340 kilograms, of TNT, and is detonated by an impact fuse. Much like other torpedoes of the period, the Mark 8 can be configured with an analogue computer called the Torpedo Data Computer. British TDCs were officially called the Fire Control Computer, though they earned the name of Fruit Machine due to them resembling the fruit machines found in various pubs back home in merry old England. I hypothesised this had a double meaning, in that everyone would watch as the captain would have a go on the fruit machine and see if he was lucky enough to score a hit, which matches typical British sarcasm and black humour to a T. The fruit machine, as did any TDC, configured a gyroscope within the torpedo and allowed it to turn and change onto a pre-arranged course and depth, allowing it to make contact with a moving target, or even curve around an object such as an island to hit a ship hiding behind it.
Gyroscopic rudder control, which makes it possible for the torpedo to alter course after it has left the submarine. At right, the target, a ship. At left, the sub. If an island, for instance, should intervene, preventing a direct shot, the sub fires ahead and the gyro does the rest.
As long as the target's speed and course did not change, and the numbers were right, you would be a winner. This is why at the Battle of the Atlantic, zigzag tactics were developed to throw off firing solutions created by these torpedo data computers. Being in service for so long, the Mark 8 has a long and distinguished history among armaments of which few other weapons can boast. Those few other weapons being legends such as the M1911 pistol and the M2 Browning heavy machine gun. The Mark 8 is now obsolete, though several navies around the world still hold a small inventory. You know, just in case. This cheeky chappie is Lieutenant James Launders. In November 1944 he attacked U-771, a German U-boat which he found on the surface in Norwegian waters. A rare submarine versus submarine kill. Apparently not content with this remarkable feat at the mere age of 25, he went and did it again, this time against a submerged U-boat, U-864, on February 1945. This made submarine history, as it was the only instance of intentional sinking of a target submarine while both were submerged. He manually calculated a three-dimensional firing solution, as the beloved fruit machine could only calculate 2D solutions for surfaced targets, with a set depth based on the target's draft. His weapons on both occasions were Mark 8 torpedoes fired from HMS Venturer. The Mark 8 continued to be improved and iterated upon even post-war. Indeed, it was a Mark 8 Mod 4 torpedo fired from HMS Conqueror that sunk the light cruiser General Belgrano on the 2nd of May 1982 during the Falklands War. There is something to be said about the effectiveness of a weapon when something conceived in the 1920s is still being used to effect in the 1980s with a nuclear-powered submarine as its platform. With their peak production in World War II seeing only 56.4% of total stores fired, you can go and see a Mark 8 torpedo today if you would like. Here's two at the Gunwharf Quay in Portsmouth, UK. Disarmed, of course, much to the benefit of the sizable Susan that decided to place their plump posterior directly upon the warhead there. You can also head across the water to the Submarine Museum in Gosport, where a Mark 8 has been cut away and put on display within the museum submarine HMS Alliance. If you're feeling particularly adventurous, there's several unexploded Mark 8s at the bottom of the Aegean Sea near Greece, not too far from where Umbra is now. Definitely a case of look but don't touch. Torpedo design reached an apogee early on when it was learned that by using magnetic detonators instead of an impact pistol, you can use a ship's weight against it. By exploding underneath the keel, you do damage to the ship at its lowest point, sure, but you also blow the water away from that point. During this explosion, the bow and the stern of the ship are still in the water, trying to remain buoyant and pushing upwards. The impact point, ideally amidships, has no water beneath it and thus no buoyancy, and so the weight of the ship, aided by the full force of gravity, is pulling down directly onto that freshly impacted keel, snapping the ship in two with its own weight. This is part of the reason why torpedoes don't need to be bigger than 21 inches in diameter. Making them larger or packing in more explosives doesn't help. For this reason, ships are now less armoured than they were back in World War II, as aside from making them more vulnerable to torpedo attacks, it also improves fuel efficiency and speed for the ship, as both applying and carrying the armour is expensive, heavy, and works against the ship rather than for it. For this attack, however, we only need to concern ourselves with slamming a torpedo into the side of the hull, depressing the pistol trigger, and setting off a bloody great
Torpedo impact.
She is on fire. Losing propulsion. Making her water very quickly, I'd wager. Yeah, the wake's almost completely fallen off of her bow now. Right. We need to get out of here as a matter of urgency. Downscope, surface the boat.
Yes, sir. Surface the boat.
Very good. Now secure from action stations.
Secure from action stations. Yes, sir.
Head flank, disengage battery propulsion.
Yes, sir.
I don't just need horsepower, Chief, I need lions, tigers and bears, oh my, everything and every animal you can give me in that engine room. Hopefully this thing goes down, we can see it and confirm the kill. I can add those 4,000 odd tons to our roster. She'll be gone within the next 10 or so minutes.
Medium range.
Ship spotted, eh? Wanting current order 019. Currently turning. Oh, that it. Just about make it out. Moving from left to right. Course 225, suspected. I'm not going to time that, I just want to get appreciation of its course. And that looks like, if it is a destroyer, which would make sense, it's heading into the strait we've just come from, likely in response to the merchant we sunk. kilometres at about 232. Very short. But if it's only, well, yeah, if it's only 2,300 metres, 2.3 kilometres, we do not have a lot of time. That thing is going straight for us. And another one.
Ship spotted. Bearing.
Oh, absolutely.
Medium range.
Is this one on? If we go roughly 230, that is going to intercept us. They're going to see us, I think. Do I... Yeah, we need to know. 62. Diving officer, make it
Yes,
up 40 meters. Oh, we can see the wake already. Yeah, they're heading straight for us. It's a destroyer-looking silhouette to me.
Yes, sir.
Ahead 1/3, rig for silent running.
Ship spotted.
Current depth.
Diving officer, I need you to take us down with ballast only. All stop.
Yes, sir.
All stop.
After our close encounter at the northern end of the strait, we surfaced and charged our batteries through the small hours. HMS Umbra arrived unmolested at her patrol area to a majestic and misty sunrise at 0800. The now calm sea betrayed the fact that we were very much in the lion's den. Major ports and naval bases of Italy were dotted along the coastline to the east and north, including La Spezia. We must avoid detection, and the narrative of frequent shipping losses will bring the sub-hunters out in droves. We shall have to play our hand very carefully indeed. Thank you all for watching. This episode took far too long to put together for reasons I won't go into here. If you liked this video, then be sure to show it by leaving a like and a comment, and strike the bell to subscribe for notifications of new videos. And if you like all things ship, then be sure to check out my other videos as well. I focus on multi-crew games where I can, but in truth, if it floats, sinks on purpose, drives, or flies, then I make an effort or an excuse to cover it anyway. Take care.